Alright, quick little fucking video about this Twiztid shit. I know a lot of people have inboxed me asking me what I think about Twiztid's tweet. Dealio, from my perspective, is like, just wait until shit comes out, until you really start talking shit, because really, you don't even know what's going on. Like, anything could have happened. I mean, literally, the possibilities of what could have happened for them to decide to leave is endless. I do notice that right before that tweet, the last thing they did was put up these VIP passes, which seems like they were pretty late in the tour to be putting them up. My personal opinion is they did that behind Violent J and Psychopathic's back to make extra money, and they weren't having that. There must have been an exchange of words, and Twiztid was like, fuck you. If I can't make an extra couple $100 for letting these dudes come behind stage and doing, you know, the extra shit, then fuck you. You know, you can't take a bite of everything, you know. And really, I've heard things like this about Psychopathic, where they try to get a hand into every single thing you do. I've heard of, you know, stories of Blaze and stuff going on tour and having to pay for his own everything and this and that, and him not really even being on a label, and just all this shit. I mean, you've heard it, I've heard it. And, you know, I don't think it's cool if they leave. I don't want to get too much on it because I honestly don't even know what's happening yet. All you've heard is a tweet, and to be honest, anything could have happened with that tweet. It could just be just to see what happens, you know, just to see how people react. It could have been just to fuck with people. I mean, it could be really serious too. One thing I do want to say, that if for some reason they do leave Psychopathic, I really hope they don't go with like Strange or Sub, because I'd hate to see Strange Noise or Sub Noise now become like enemies with Psychopathic. And really, to be honest, I mean, let's be honest here, the only people left on Psychopathic is going to be ICP. No one's going to be there anymore. ABK and Blaze and Boondocks is gone. I mean, really, who else do you have? Dark Lotus. Well, Dark Lotus is Twiztid and ICP, basically. You know, and I also hope that if they do leave, that they still do, you know, the Riders, and hopefully they do still do Dark Lotus. I mean, dude, for fucking A's sake, I got a Dark Lotus tattoo on my arm, and now you're telling me that they're just going to be done and never do a Lotus album again? I mean, if they leave labels, that doesn't mean they can't still do Lotus. To be completely honest, I've always thought that ICP and Twiztid should do an album that's not Lotus, like something different, like something more like ICP does, and do it, you know, do an album with Twiztid and ICP, not Lotus though, like not the whole Lotus style, like do it some other way. I always thought that would have been cool, and why they never done that has always baffled me. But, you know, to be completely honest, I don't think, I said this before, and I've said it in past videos if you've watched me. You know that I am a firm believer that Twiztid is one of the groups, and probably the only group that has ever been on Psychopathic besides ICP, that could make it without Psychopathic Records. I think Twiztid could leave and do great things, and then I think they also could underachieve and want to kind of go back to Psychopathic. So I don't know exactly what their motives are yet, and until I do know their motives, I really can't speak too much on this, and I don't think a lot of people should. I've read constant comments underneath the tweet on Facebook and other places, and people talking about it, and honestly, it's like some people are like, fuck ICP, like always. You know, there's the people who are like, yeah, I support you whatever you do, and there's the people who are like, well, I thought this was family, and then there's the people that are like, well, you know, if you're gonna leave, just don't go to any other label, or if you're gonna leave, you should make your own label, or if you're gonna leave, you know, it's just, you know, basically it's not in our hands, it's in their hands, and we have to sit and wait. Which brings me to my next point. I kind of think it's a bitch move on Twiztid's part, and I never really took them for the type of people to do something like this, to kind of like give you information and not really give you information. In a way, it's a bitch slap to the Juggalos, because this is something they know is going to fuck with us. They know it's going to, it's something that means a lot, and it's not to be taken lightly. I mean, if this family really meant that much to them, do you really think they would just put out a message like that without any explanation whatsoever? I think a little explanations do, and I think it's taking too long to hear an explanation, because really I'm worried about just plain everything. I mean, who knows what's going on? There could be personal issues, something bad could have happened. We don't know anything, and if we are family, then maybe we should be some of the first people to find this stuff out. You know, I don't know how they're going to go about releasing information. I think they should go on YouTube and make a YouTube video like we do, to be completely honest. I think that would be, I mean, Tech Nine's done it before. Why can't they? Also, you know, I've heard them talk very highly of Tech Nine and Strange, and I honestly think that if they were to go anywhere, they probably would go with Strange, which would definitely catapult them a little bit in the upper class of, you know, semi-popular music, because Tech Nine has infiltrated the mainstream in a way. I mean, he's been there for years. I mean, back in the 90s, Tech Nine was doing, you know, music videos. Check out the Anthem, like I've always said, you know, with Eminem and RZA and numerous others. I think KRS-One was on there and a couple others. But, you know, Tech Nine's been kind of in the mainstream eye for a long time. Just recently, he really branched into the mainstream with some of his, you know, albums like Ever Ready and some of the ones after that. But, I mean, I don't know. I picture Twiztid, if they would do something on their own, I don't think they would make it, because they'd only have the Juggalos supporting them, and I think with just the Juggalos, I don't think it's going to be enough to really carry enough money for them to be able to carry on and do big things. I think if they really want to do big things, their best bet is to go with Strange Noise. And the fact of the matter is, and we've talked about this, I've heard it in comments, is like, you know, Tech Nine doesn't show ICP love. If they did, if a Tech Nine would show ICP some love and put him on a track on one of his records, he'd never do that, because he knows what mainstream thinks of ICP, and that's the sad part. You know, it's sad that even your supposed fam, they can take your fan base, they can ride your nuts, and there's two sides in my eyes, in my mind. There's two sides to this story. You know, I hate fucking, I don't, you know, I love Tech Nine, but I hate Tech Nine, and I you know, I want to stand by ICP 100%, because really, to be honest, what have they ever done to anybody but just try to put dope shit together and fucking, you know, do right by the Juggalos? So what have they done wrong? I mean, they have done nothing wrong at all towards Juggalos. If anything, they've given you the freshest freshness that you guys could ever fucking handle, and you know, they should get respect for that one way or another. You don't like their new stuff, whatever. I mean, if you've been down since Jekyll and Riddlebox and stuff, and you know, you've been down with these guys, there's no reason to leave their side just because of whatever. There's a lot of other stuff that I do want to touch base on, but my mind is, you know, filled with a bunch of things that I want to talk about when it comes to this subject, so it's hard to make sure I get everything, and I haven't taken notes or anything, so just bear with me while I try to pull my thoughts together and think of some other things that I want to talk about. Like, for instance, you know, Twiztid's new album. When Twiztid's new album dropped, I said, this is the changing point. This is where it all takes off. It was such a good album that it should have got reviews by mainstream rap. It should have gotten noticed by The Source, and it should have gotten noticed by multiple people who publicize about hip-hop, but it didn't. You know, and I think in a way that might have been something that, you know, changed their minds about Psychopathic, because I think they started to think, you know, maybe finally, after all this time, Psychopathic starting to break through the mainstream. Then ICP puts out this album that just doesn't do nothing. I mean, it just, let's face it, it's an okay album if you're a Juggalo, but if you're on the outside looking in, and I'm not saying that ICP's making music for people on the outside, but what I am saying is that if they have this idea that they're going to break into the mainstream in some way, they got to go in the mainstream the way they used to be. They have to come in swinging hatchets and fucking chopping heads off. And to be completely honest, the Mighty Death Pop and Bang Pow Boom are not doing that. You know, now Twiztid, they did it. You know, and that album should have impacted hip-hop, and it should have impacted the mainstream, and people should have stepped back and said, wow, this shit is amazing. But they didn't, because the publicity just wasn't there. You know, I seen that CD go from #2 on the hip-hop independent rap charts to dropping so quickly because the only people who were buying it were Juggalos. If ICP could spread, I mean, if Twiztid, excuse me, could spread out the people who buy their CDs, they would be a great, they could make an impact on hip-hop, literally, and they have the potential to do that. ICP's already done that, you know what I mean? Like, no matter what, I mean, okay, ICP will never break into the mainstream, they will never be, you know, making music videos on MTV, it just ain't gonna happen, but in all realism, let's face it, when people look back 30, 40 years from now, ICP is going to be one of those groups and things that collectors and gurus of old school hip hop and stuff look at, and it's going to be like a rare thing. It's going to be like one of those rare gems. I mean, I collect records, and there's old psych music that no one even cared about when it came out, but now 30 years later, people are grabbing at it like it's gold. That's what ICP is going to be like in 20 to 30 years. Bottom line is you're nobody till somebody kills you. Once they're not here anymore, that's when people are going to appreciate them and respect them. Twiztid's at a point where they can take a turn and do something great. I don't see why they have to leave Psychopathic to do that. And I wanted to touch base on also the F.B.I. thing. I think at this period in time when Psychopathic is going through such a hardship and they're taking blows to a lot of the money that they were getting, a lot of the money that they were making was coming from the Hot Topics and the Spencers and the stores that they were selling some of their merchandise in. Now without that anymore, it has to be damaging their pocketbook. Now that's what I'm saying. It's damaging their pocketbook. Now, is that the reason why Twiztid's leaving? Is that one of the reasons why Twiztid's leaving? Because it's damaged their pocketbook so far to the point where they just aren't making enough money anymore? I hope it's not about money, because it shouldn't be about money. They're only where they are because of Psychopathic Records. Let's face it. If they would have went out on their own, unless some major label would have picked them up, which probably wouldn't have happened back then, they probably would have never even made it to this point. They're only releasing albums like Abominations and things of that nature because Psychopathic helped them get to that point. Without Psychopathic, they would not have us. They would not have fans. They probably would have never even made it past Most Tasteless. I mean, let's be completely honest. They're a great group, but back in the day, back in the 90s, they weren't as amazing as they are now. They have stepped up their game immensely, especially with this new album. And they've stepped up to the point where mainstream music and mainstream hip-hop actually would respect it if they could get their foot in the door. Let's hope they don't remove the face paint. I don't think they should. If they do, they're going to lose a lot of fans. I hope they don't bitch out and sell out. I don't think they're going to do that because they've always been these, you can tell in their voices that they're serious, that they really do care about us, and that the fans mean a lot, and it just, I almost feel it more from Twiztid than I do from ICP anymore. I mean, to be completely honest, I feel more of a love and more of a connection and more of a family, because, I mean, their whole album was for us. I mean, you could tell. It was written for every juggalo out there. And, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics of it and just, really gets down to the nitty-gritty of that album was made for juggalos. ICP's Mighty Death Pop was not. I mean, let's fucking face it, guys. I mean, let's face it, seriously. It was an okay album, and I'm not going to keep on, I don't want to bring up these albums, but, what bothers me, and this is what makes me go back and forth, like, there's parts of me that wouldn't mind them leaving, then there's parts of me that are very angry about them leaving, and one of the main things that makes me angry is the whole F.B.I. thing. I think at a time like this, when I think Psychopathic needs, Twiztid, they need ICP to be there and come together and try to get this thing taken care of, fight for that label, fight for that hatchet man that has been, supporting you for the last fucking almost 20 years, you know what I mean? To abandon the Hatchet Man just because of the F.B.I. and not stand there side by side with ICP and fight with them kinda is a bitch move, I think, on Twiztid's part. Now, I gotta hear their side of the story before I would go any further on, getting pissed off at them in any way, because honestly, we all know things happen. It is a business, and they are, trying to sell records and make money. I hope wherever they go, they start pressing vinyl. So if Jamie and Paul, you're watching this, press some fucking vinyl. Come out with some limited 500 copies pressed, different shit. It would be really cool to see your shit on a 12-inch record. Please do that. Psychopathic ain't doing it. Maybe you guys can do it if you guys are going to leave. That would make me big time buy your shit. I would love it, man. I mean, I'm a record collector, so it would be amazing to see that. I've always wanted ICP to release a 6-Joker card on a vinyl set. They probably never will. But that's getting off topic. But it's pretty much my thoughts and feelings, like, so far. And I basically will make another video when I hear more information. But for now, let's try to bite our tongue a little bit and watch what we say, because we don't know whose fault, who's blaming this and that. If there's really any drama or any beef at all, maybe it's just something, maybe it's they've come to an agreement where they're still going to work with each other, ICP and Twiztid, and, still do things, still do Lotus. If that's the case, then I'm all for it. But, I mean, if you're going to kiss goodbye to Lotus, and you're going to kiss goodbye to the Riders, and you're going to kind of abandon the gathering and go join Sub Noise or Strange and just kind of like fuck ICP. If that's the case, then there's going to be problems, and it is going to divide this family greatly. And there are going to be people who are going to harbor anger towards Twiztid for it. You know, no matter how good their music is, you know, a lot of the reason why a lot of people like Twiztid is because of their character. Depending on how they go about this, they could lose a lot of respect from Juggalos. That's what I think. So could ICP. It all depends. So I guess we'll have to see, and when we do, I will make another video. I've been TestDummy22. This is motherfucking Juggalo News, bitch. Whoop, whoop.